Happy Thanksgiving, friends. Thought I'd give you a Thanksgiving Squint podcast. And today, I'm going to try to be as brief as I can. What I have to share, I don't want to ruffle any feathers, but I do want to share something out of my heart. So I hope you'll receive it that way, and that you'll still love me, like me, enjoy my podcast, and so on. This is about servant leadership. And in Matthew chapter 20, verse 26, and I've been reading the Gospel of Matthew this past week, in the last couple weeks, it says, Jesus says, "Not so with you." This is when his disciples wondered who's going to be the greatest, and so on and so forth. He says, "Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servants, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and give his life a ransom for the many." And what I've been reading, that was just one passage this past week. There has been multiple passages that I have read in which it's all about the last being first and the first being last, the idea of being a servant, serving other people. For the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life a ransom for the many. And so it's servant leadership. And servant leadership honors others. It looks out for the interests of others. There's humility in it. We suppress our own rights for the good of others, and so on and so forth. And so that's what servant leadership is about. And I believe if we're going to lead people, whether it's in the church or whether it's in an organization, we have to learn how to serve them well also. So I share that to say, I am praying for our country. I think our country it seems like there's a big divide. I pray and hope that that's not true. But as we come out of this presidential election, and yes, it appears that that Vice President Biden is going to become President-elect Biden. President Trump does have the legal right to make challenges, and I guess that's what they're doing. But I'm anticipating that what's going to likely happen is that in the end, that Joe Biden will become our new president. Now, what I think happened, and this is all about servant leadership. I want to keep to my tone here, my subject here. I think what happened is that President Trump, a lot of people didn't like him. I don't think it was a policy matter that people didn't want to vote for him. I think that people truly didn't like him. And I have been one to say before, he has a horrible bedside manner. Now, I have liked his policies. I have felt that most of his policies were, and it's not necessarily all of them, but most of them were really good policies. Not all, but most. And so I enjoy the policies. And I think a lot of people did. But what I think happened is that a lot of people just heard the noise. They didn't care for the noise. They didn't care for the calling names, the tweets that went out, and just that harshness that seemed to be there. And I think what happened is, it's not that people voted for a leftist policy or a more liberal policy, I just think they didn't want President Trump to be the president. And in fact, I think some Republicans, actually, because the Republicans are winning, picked up seats in the House. It looks like they're going to keep the Senate. And so I think what happened is there were, and I was reading some data on this, that a lot of conservative Republican college-educated suburban type people actually just said, you know what, I'm going to move my chips over here and go with this person for now, and maybe in 4 years later I'll go back. But so it was like they voted for Biden and not Trump, but then they voted Republican on the House and on the Senate. And I think that happened because people just didn't want to hear the noise. And I think maybe what President Trump could learn, I hope what he learns out of this. Now, I don't know. Maybe he'll come out of this, and the courts will find out that there's been whatever, and maybe he'll come out of this. It doesn't look like that's what's going to happen. So I hope that he'll see that servant leadership is that ability to think of others, to be careful with what we say, that ability to reach across the aisle and hear others. And sometimes, you got to, as much as I believe in standing firm on principle, sometimes you got to give to get what you need, I think of two great leaders. Now, there again, we are all free to agree or disagree on this. But when I think of a great Republican president, I think of Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was known, he was loved by all on both sides because he had the ability to reach across the aisle, to see what it is they were seeing and to hear what they were hearing. And he just really was charismatic in that way and was able to do a lot of things. On the Democratic side, President John F. Kennedy had that same appeal, that same charisma. He was able to reach across the aisle and bring other people along. And so how do you do that? Well, you do that by serving, servant leadership. So we learned this, I think, in our presidential election here. That's the most visible illustration that I can give you. Jesus obviously modeled servant leadership by laying down his life. I mean, he was God, and he gave up everything that he had to reach you and to reach me. And so our takeaway is, how can we lead our organizations, our schools, our churches, our families? And it's by being servants. It's by being willing to allow others to go ahead and be first where we don't have to be first. We can have humility in our life. We can think the best about people. We can listen to people, and maybe sometimes we give before we really need to get. And so that's my word. That's my thing about. I'm just ready now to enjoy the holidays. I'm done with the elections. And for the most part, I'm not getting overly concerned about the pandemic. I pray for people, and everybody has thoughts about that, but I'm not sharing my thoughts today on that. I just want to get past all the political stuff and enjoy the holiday season and really just pray a time of peace. Christ brought peace for those that come to know him as Savior. That's where true peace is found. It's not found in government. It's not found in anybody else. But true peace and happiness and joy is found in Jesus Christ alone. He humbled himself. He gave his life for us. May we receive that gift that he has given to us. And may we, during this holiday season and in 2021, be people who are servant leaders, where we think the best about people and maybe we give up before we get. So have a happy Thanksgiving, and I'll have some more podcasts over the holidays, but I just pray that this will set a positive tone for you as we enter in what's known as the holiday season. Take care, and we'll have the next podcast next week. Bye-bye.